All right,
Hi,
guys.
everybody. This is Bill Exeter. Are you ready to go? Or
Yeah, let's do this. How you guys doing?
okay,
Good. What's up, guys?
we're doing good. We're surviving and having fun.
There you go. Easter Eve, here we are.
It is. I didn't even think about that. Every day is the same.
If you guys see the Easter Bunny sneak up behind me, you let me know.
Yeah, we actually had to have a conversation with the kids, and we're like, hey, we don't know how the Easter Bunny is going to go into everyone's house when everyone's on quarantine. So we're kind of turning Easter into something a little different than normal. So
Perfect. That's awesome. I love it.
I think rabbits can get coronavirus, so I think you're good.
That's right.
Right. All right, awesome. Well, hey, Will, thanks for joining us today. I know there's been some big changes with the 1031 exchange world. If you want to introduce yourself and just kind of kick things off, go for it.
Sure. My name is Bill Exeter. I'm president and CEO of Exeter 1031 Exchange Services and Exeter Trust Company. I've been in the 1031 exchange business now coming up on 36 years. We've been doing it for a long time, seen a lot of different transactions over the time. We've certainly seen a lot of changes in the last few months with the coronavirus and being locked down and self-quarantining and what have you. And, you know, the biggest issue that we see there is, of course, especially if you're in the middle of a 1031 exchange and you've sold your relinquished property and you're in the middle of that transaction and then you're locked down and can't leave your house. How do you go out and find a new replacement property you want to invest in? How do you do your due diligence, et cetera? And so that's been really the issue in our world. And fortunately, Thursday night, April 9th, actually late that evening, the Treasury Department, or IRS, came out with some guidance for us finally. And we were expecting that, and it really extends certain taxpayers' deadlines. So the way they structured this, and I should probably back up a little bit, because historically what normally would happen, and they didn't do it this time, but what would normally happen is the president would declare a disaster area, and then the IRS after that would issue guidance and tell us what geographic areas qualify, what date specific is covered, and then basically define what an affected taxpayer is, so we know who qualifies. And then those that do, their 45 days and their 180-day deadlines get extended by 120 days. And again, like I said, they didn't do that this time. This time it's different. And the president declared a disaster, but in a different way. So I think that was part of it, is that the IRS didn't have the usual freedom that they usually have. And then when they came out and declared or provided guidance on what would work, they really have defined that all taxpayers obviously are affected by the coronavirus, so they all qualify.
Yep.
But it's any deadline, April 1st, or the 45-day deadline, or the 180-day deadline. If that lands either on or after April 1st, or on or before July 15th, their deadlines are extended to July 15th. So instead of just adding a number of days to each of the deadlines, they just said if you fall within April 1st and July 15th, your deadline is now July 15th. So it's kind of an interesting approach. It's not quite what we had hoped for. It's a lot easier if you just say, take your deadline and add 120 days. It's easier to figure out for each taxpayer. In this case, if their deadline is July 10th, they only get a 5-day extension. So we were hoping for the usual 120 days, but at least we got something. So it's going to help quite a number of taxpayers out there who are in the middle of an exchange and just don't know what to do to find replacement property.
Do you see them going back and trying to convert that to the 120 days? Or is there a lot of petitioning for that?
I think there's going to be a lot of that. A number of industry trade groups, including the Federation of Exchange Accommodators, is trying to determine how best to go back and request an amendment of the ruling or the guidance. A lot of us as qualified intermediaries are writing letters to the Treasury Department to explain why it's a good first step, but it's not really what's needed. We need more. For example, there's a lot of folks that were locked down in March or self-quarantined in March, even before that, some in late February. And this does not apply to any deadlines back then. And July 15th, I'm not sure we're all going to be ready to go running back out to work at that point. I think a lot of people will have, but there's still going to be some issues. So I think it needs to be extended a little further beyond that. So we'll try. I wouldn't expect any kind of amendment or revised guidance in the near future. It may be something we get just before the end of July 15th deadline.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I would have to agree because, I mean, they just extended us being on the shutdown until May 15th. So, you know, a lot of that, I mean, even after they release that, a lot of the older clients, like we have some older clients that are looking, they're going to be hesitant to go out and still, I mean, for the first couple of weeks. So, I mean, that's rolling all the way into June if they don't extend it again.
Absolutely, yep. It just creates a lot of moving parts that are kind of, in some cases, hard to define for certain taxpayers. So it's a little unnerving. Absolutely.
What are you seeing on the end of the people that are exchanged that are able to move on, that are looking for properties? Are you seeing any issues with buyers trying to secure their new properties?
Yeah, there's been a number of challenges. Of course, you know, sellers have sold. Now they've got to go find their new replacement property, and getting out of the house and is really the issue there. On the other side of the coin, you know, buyers are having a hard time getting financing in some cases. We've seen some lenders. I talked to a lender on yesterday, that said they actually raised rates because their pipeline was so incredibly swamped that they can't keep up with the business. So they bumped rates to do that. Talk to other lenders, especially like in the multifamily world, where they're raising rates because they think there's more risk. I think I would somewhat disagree with that, because I think this is going to be a very short-term deal. And as soon as we are comfortable we're past the virus, I think people are going to go back pretty quickly. A lot of the people on the unemployment line are, you know, retail, food service, hospitality, and they'll get their jobs back pretty quickly. It's not going to be that way for everybody, but I think this is going to be a fairly quick recovery.
Yeah, I know when we were talking with the lender, we interviewed a lender just a couple of days ago, and he was saying that they're definitely trying to bump up the security factor, especially on units, because the lack of people because it's pretty much all over the board. He's saying that some tenants are just like, hey, paying it on it totally normal, and other landlords are having huge issues trying to get their tenants to pay. So it's kind of all over. I mean, not a lot of tenants are prepared to go and not work for a long period of time. So it'd be interesting to see how they keep extending this, because we're just extending another 2 weeks. And that really does kind of roll into it. And everyone's still kind of uncertain on when the stimulus is supposed to come out. From what I've heard, a lot of people could expect to start having their checks hit by the 15th. So I think that will help people, you know, kind of catch up on some rent. But I think the uncertainty is just how long we're all going to be locked up.
Absolutely. And some of the big lenders, you know, like B of A, Wells Fargo, they have granted like a 2 or 3 or 4 month deferment for payments. But if you read between the lines and you read the fine print, they're only deferring it to the end of that period. And then at that point, all of the payments come due. So to me, they're setting a lot of these people up for failure. You know, making one payment a month is already hard enough. And if they defer it for 3 or 4 months, I think we're going to see people who forget they have to make 3 or 4 monthly payments all at once at the end of that window. And that's going to be scary.
I think it's the same with renters that aren't paying their rent, and all of a sudden they have to pay their back rent for 2, 3, 4 months.
Absolutely. And it's going to be tough for them. A lot of them live paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. So it's both on the owners and the renter side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting toward the end of the year, to probably the next year or so, to see what happens with everybody.
Yeah, with everyone trying to get caught up. What do you think that most people are going to be able to fall within the July 15th deadline? From the people that you're talking to that are looking, what is the feedback that you've heard from the people that you currently are working with the extension?
Yeah, so far most of them have fallen in that. In fact, we've got a bunch of clients that had just passed their 45-day deadline and were not able to find property because they couldn't go out and leave their house. And so they all fall right in the middle of that. So now they have until July 15th to go and identify something. So at this point, it's saved a lot of clients from paying a huge tax bill.
Right. Yeah. We're the same. We had someone who expired on the 5th, so 6 days ago, which is right at the beginning of this time frame. So he's going to get a lot more time. Unlike the people that, like you said, July 10th get 5 days, he's going to get a lot more time than they are.
Absolutely. And we've probably spent about the last week, almost 2 weeks, talking to clients where their 45-day period passed and they said, you know what, it failed, send me the money. We just do not pull the money out. If you pull the money out, you lock in your tax consequences. Leave it there, and we're pretty sure we'll get some kind of an extension. And now we do have that. So that's the good part. At least we were able to talk most of them into keeping the funds in the account. We've had a few that pulled it out. Now they're calling back and saying, can I put it back in? And it's too late. Once you pull it out, it's taxable.
What would you say for anybody, because we've got some clients that are possibly looking to sell or do an exchange and they're just unsure about it. What kind of advice would you recommend to somebody considering selling their property that hasn't listed it yet, that's looking to do an exchange? What are some good tips that you would recommend?
Well, certainly from the market perspective, it's still a seller's market. The interest rates are incredibly low today. So now's a good time for buyers to get out there. The challenge is some of the lenders are making it difficult, but there are other lenders that it's not so bad. So, and I think as we get into the next 3 to 4 weeks, the lenders will start to loosen up a little more because they'll realize this was not as bad as people thought it was going to be. I mean, you had President Trump initially forecasting deaths of 100,000 to 240,000, and the last numbers I saw were coming up on 11,000. So it's very different than what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
So I think when that happens, it'll be easier. So right now it's a seller's market, but buyers can really afford that. So depending on the situation, I would say start looking at the property now and start looking at selling the property now. It's just a great time for buyers to get out there and do their thing. Yeah. They may be able to give buyers a long-term closing, instead of a 45, 60, whatever day escrow, give them 90, 120 day escrow or more so they have time to work through all those and whatnot. And then you could always do the contingencies as well. So I think now's a great time to sell. We haven't seen prices falling yet. I mean, a lot of the clients we've had in the pipeline, they have not been repriced or anything like that. So I think the market's good.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing, but not a lot of repricing going on. As far as buyers, we are recommending long periods, long escrow periods for that reason. So yeah, exactly what you're saying makes sense.
Yeah, it's a little harder to get into some properties, especially if you're looking at multi-units. Like we have 11 units in San Diego listed, so getting in 11 properties, making sure everyone's healthy and coordinating that, it becomes, getting in 11 units is already hard enough. But getting into 11 units when nobody wants you in their house for health reasons becomes even more of a challenge. So we've definitely been looking at longer contingency periods and everything like that.
Yeah, but I think it'll come together. I think we've listened to, 4 different economic forecasts in the last week or so. We hosted one of them, and they're all saying about the same thing. They're all projecting kind of a V-shaped recovery. I mean, we went down hard and fast, and we're going to come back fairly hard and fast. They're all making comments along the same lines that there's kind of a lot of pent-up demand. People have been cooped up in their house for too long. They're ready to get out and do stuff. Now, I don't think there'll be an explosion immediately because there's going to be people who are still cautious, and especially those that are at risk should be cautious. But I think it's going to come back pretty quickly. I don't think this is going to be a prolonged event.
I think right when it opens up again, I think the buyers that get out there quickly are going to be in a really good place because they're going to have less competition.
Absolutely, that's true. Yep. I mean, right now that's exactly right. There's a lot less competition. So now is a good time to get out there and do stuff.
Yeah, the listings that we've had, it seems to be if somebody calls, they're serious. It's like it's a lot quieter. You don't got a lot of phishing phone calls where they're just like asking, but the people that are calling that want to set something up are serious. And it seems like things are clicking a little bit better. Do you have any more economic, forecast seminars or anything coming up that you guys will be hosting?
Nothing's scheduled. We're going to try to get another economist in about 30 days or so because we'll have more data by then and see if we can come back and do another forecast webinar. Okay. So we can put that information out as soon as we have that, but we haven't picked a date yet. Okay, perfect. Yeah, when we get that, let us know. We'll put it below in the in the YouTube link. That way, if they want to register, they could go check it out. Okay, perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, we try to provide as much quality information and education as we can, especially in times like this, because investors need all they can get to make better informed decisions. It's a tough time to make decisions. Absolutely. Yeah, I think over the last couple of weeks, I've spent a lot more time listening to economic lenders, forecasting from professionals that are really involved in the market, not just opinionated.
just to keep updated, because things are changing and tenants are not paying, and they're even whether it's apartments or like commercial properties. I mean, tenants are having a hard time paying. Doors are locked. So staying updated is definitely important. So like we said, if you see any big changes on your side, let us know. We could jump on and do a little updated, and we'll link everything back with all your info. If they have any questions, they can reach out to you direct.
Okay. Have you guys seen any kind of statistics on how many tenants have stopped paying rent at this point in time?
Not necessarily. I haven't seen anything. Have you, Mike?
I haven't seen any specific numbers, but I have heard not a lot, but tenants are, I'm talking commercial here, like triple net tenants. Some are not paying. Some are trying to use this pandemic as a reason to get out of their leases. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. A lot of what we sell is actually still open. We do a lot of, grocery, pharmacy, dollar stores, essential businesses right now. So a lot of stuff like those things, we're not seeing any issue with them paying their rents right now. So that's good. So if someone is looking for a triple net property, the essential businesses will be a good place to go, and the easiest to get financed as well, because they are still open.
In regards to the rents, I think the hardest part about that is really it comes down to the landlords and getting a hold of their tenants. I know we've been listening to a lot of, people, a lot of huge investors a lot of them are going back and talking to their tenants, and others are just crossing their fingers and hoping they're going to pay their rent. So I think it's really, now's the time to see the landlord step up and talk to the tenants and communicate with them. And I think the numbers will be jumbled no matter what they put out on that, because you're going to have your guys that are just like, look, you're good, don't worry about paying anything for a month. I mean, I heard a couple big people in LA, they just went back to their tenants and they're like, look, everybody has a free month. So I think it's really going to vary, and those numbers are going to be kind of rough. But I mean, there's a lot of tenants that are just using it to not pay. Because they think the landlords are getting skated by and they don't have to make a payment, so why should they? Almost to like that 2008 short sale period where the tenants are like, why should I pay if the owner's not paying? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of the tenants don't realize that the owners aren't paying necessarily today, but they're going to be paying 3 or 4 payments in about 3 or 4 months. So they're going to have to pay. They are paying. It's just deferred. Yeah, no, definitely.
I think it's going to be, I look at it a different way. So if you're an apartment owner, you have some bad tenants and, they're not paying these months, and you say, great, we're going to pass it on till later. And when they can't pay that back, guess what? You can get rid of that tenant.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I think some landlords are going to take advantage of it in that way to get rid of tenants. Fair or not, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Mike, did you have any other questions for the 1031 exchange side?
You're really, really very thorough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So
really good information. And the big thing we got through is the extension on the 1031 exchange time frame. So that was the big news that came that we really need to talk about.
So anybody that's in a 1031, the deadline has been moved to July 15th.
Exactly. Yep. So cross our fingers, we'll get further guidance, but so far so good.
All right. Perfect. Well, we appreciate your time, and we'll have all Will's info below in the link. So if you want to reach out and ask him any questions specifically, if you're doing a 1031 exchange, feel free. He's been in the business and he is a great guy. We get all of our resources for 1031 exchange through him. So we appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Talk to you guys soon.
Have a good one.
Yeah.